Hello everyone. I hope you all had an enjoyable bank holiday. This is week 1 of a new set and I'm feeling a little bit rusty even though I've only stopped for 2 weeks, so hopefully it'll go okay. But I'm going to continue with flowers and I will be demonstrating various techniques this month, and using a variety of techniques to portray them. Lots of things coming in the garden now, so hopefully you'll always be able to find something that you would like to paint. But this week I'm going to paint some poppies. I'm going to put them back in the water because I don't want them to die on me. But what I have done is to, as soon as they were picked, I plunged them into some boiling water just for 10 seconds and then into very cold water, which a lot of you will already know will help them to stay upright and lively for the amount of time that you would need them to paint them. Otherwise, really, poppies don't like to be picked and they'll flop very quickly. Okay, so waving my flag. And last time we painted specific shapes into our background, indicating the main shapes of the flowers. But this week I'm going to completely cover the background area and allow it to dry and paint on the top. And these are the colours that I've chosen for my background and for my poppies. And I've gone for a smaller pad, but I would suggest that you go for a large one, and I would prefer a large one normally. But I was thinking that maybe it's going to cover more quickly and dry quickly, and so therefore will be easier to manage doing a demonstration. Just turning that, move it down a little bit. So I've got a little spray bottle here, which I think I've talked to you before about. You can use any kind of spray bottle really, but these are quite good in that they've got a nice fine spray. And sometimes you can find them in art shops and sometimes you can't. I certainly haven't got them in my catalogue. So I've wetted the whole of the area and even putting more water on. But do make sure that you're using a block. And even if you are using a block, it's still beneficial to tape it as well, and make sure your tape goes right underneath, because using so much water you're going to get a lot of cockling. Right, so I've chosen colours that I think will look good behind my poppies. And because there won't be any white paper left, the choice that I've decided upon, yellows, oranges and blues, which are all very nice and complementary and look good together and also blend nicely together. But they will also look nice because of not being able to use and leave white paper. I'll get a nice yellowy orange colour showing through any gaps that I leave, which will be nicer really in a poppy, which is a bright flower, rather than little white shapes being left. So just pop all these. I would choose no more than 3 colours, I think. Remembering that it's going to dry up about 3 times lighter than when you apply it. So if I put that yellow across and pop the blue on the top, I'm going to get some green happening, which will be appropriate as well. So once you've got to that stage, you then can tip, move it around and allow some of those colours to move around and blend and make lovely shapes for you in the background. I would suggest, generally speaking, not to use a hairdryer, especially not until it stopped moving, because it tends to push the paint back into the paper and it can look a little bit dull. At this point you can add more if you wanted to. You can splatter as well. You can do all sorts of different things that you might think of. So, you know, just think about what other things you might like to do, and allow some of this paint to disperse into the background there. I'm not going to use salt today, but I will be using salt in my backgrounds at some point this month. I don't think it's necessarily suitable for this particular flower. So then that needs to lay flat somewhere and dry. And as I said, it will dry quite a lot lighter. So here's one I did earlier. And you can see it's similar. And it has actually dried up quite a bit lighter, which is a good thing in many ways because of having to paint on the top. I'm going to just stop though to get my paint colours ready for the flowers, and I want to wash this away. Okay, so let's paint a couple of poppies on here. Poppies tend to be quite transparent and papery looking, so I'm going to try not to get too heavy with them, and I still want to use, I think, the looser technique. But obviously you can use now on the top of this whatever kind of technique suits you best. If you want to go tighter, then that's fine, but I'm actually going to keep my wash quite watery. I've got a couple of reds out. I've got Cadbury Scarlet, which is this one, and I've got Cadbury Red Deep. Poppies only ever have, unless it's a cultivated poppy, they only ever have a couple of, they have 4 petals, so not too much to worry about. And they create all sorts of different shapes. So work in the direction that you see the petals with whatever flower you choose to paint. It doesn't have to be a poppy, but they should be around now. I don't know if everyone will have poppies around them, but certainly they're about here at the moment, and I have got some in the garden. You can lift back off for a little bit of light, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can because it's going to be a nice, simple end result. So let's pop that little centre in. These particular poppies have got that dark patch, which I'm using indigo for, because I don't actually want to get too dark on there. It can be ignored, you could leave something like that out, but I have just indicated it slightly. And then it's got its little cap on the top here. So in a way, my little poppy is becoming part of the background in some ways. So while that's still damp, I'm actually just going to use some alizarin crimson to just deepen a few areas and to make it look a little bit more crinkly rather than flat, because they do have all these lovely little crinkles in. And if I do that while it's wet, I won't get such hard marks appearing with a bit of luck. Depending on the flower that you choose to paint, obviously it will depend on what colours that you're going to put in the background, but I've hopefully chosen ones that I think are suitable for this little subject here. And I'm not going to put the stalks in at this point because I don't exactly know where my picture is going to end up. So I'll paint another poppy, trying to create nice shapes and nice focal point here. So, as I've said before, if you draw a line, as I just did, make sure you bring that back down quite quickly so that that doesn't have time to dry and not look right. Putting two together here because I feel that that will maybe look better and create a nicer focal area. Now this is where I'm leaving little spaces where we would normally have white paper showing. I've got yellow and orange behind, which is, I think, more suitable for this colour that I'm using. So think about something like that when you choose your background. Right, so that poppy goes off behind that one there. So I've got two together. And that one's now got its 4 petals. So let's put a little bit of depth going on there. I'm using my sword brush because it's too, it will hold quite a lot of water and keep me nice and loose. And I will be using it again in a minute when I create some leaf. So if you're painting loosely again, you don't have to put in every single bit of detail, but just create the impression of whatever you're painting, and then let it dry and you'll find it'll end up looking good. I'll leave that centre for just a second so that it's not too wet. If I start painting that centre in now, it's maybe going to run too far and not look so good. So one more, I think. I can maybe pop some buds in. So let's see which one I can do. They do take on lots and lots of different shapes. So here we go. Let's try this one. I'm using a nice big brush. It's a size 8, series 22. And so far I've used my soft background brush, which is a 1/2 inch 44, but any large brush would be fine for putting that background down. And I've used the sword brush. So I'm going to let this one fade away, I think, at this bottom edge so that I keep the eye going on over there. although they're a simple looking flower, I don't think they're particularly simple to paint. And over time I've had to paint them so many times because poppies are the Norfolk flower and I've been asked so many times to paint them. I have to say I never feel that I completely capture them as well as I would like. So I keep trying. I think, as often is the case, less is more. Right, I'm just keeping it deeper in colour in the area that I feel is the focal area here. They look so good at the moment, swaying around outside. So I'm trying to keep them nice and loose and give them movement and not get too strong and heavy with them. But as I've said before, you're very welcome to use whatever subject you would like to this week, and whatever style of painting that you choose. Right, let's put this nice little centre in here. It's the centres that really finish them off and make them look so much better, but I'm not going to get too detailed with them. And it's still wet in places, which is good, because I still want some freedom here. And with that indigo, it's got a sort of bluey hint to it, which is better than using something like a black. I don't really ever use black. So I could go back and put some more of those in at some stage. So I'll leave that centre for now and think about a couple of buds perhaps. So when you've put the focal area in and the main flowers, you can then spread out with your painting and make it more interesting. And of course you're able to draw on top of this painted background if that gives you more confidence and that's what you'd like to do. But keep your drawings at a minimum really, don't get too deep with them and heavy. I'm not going to think about putting all the little hairy bits on, but just a few wavy lines will do the trick there. And as always, I won't exactly know what's going to happen in the end until it's dry. So a little cluster of buds and tops here. And the stalks take on all sorts of lovely bendy shapes actually, so keep that looking nice and free and natural looking. Maybe another little bud out the top here. And then maybe you could put some more up there, or maybe I will after. But I'm going to run out of time if I fiddle about for too long, because there's something else I want to do with you on here. So if I'd had a bit more time, maybe I would have allowed areas to dry a bit more. But you're getting the message with the technique, and that's the main thing. So now we need some nice stalks coming through here. It's kind of taking on quite a nice shape. Maybe another bud here. No, I'm going to think about putting some leaves in, I think. Maybe it should have another bud this side. Looking the other way, maybe. Lots of buds in front of me. Taking on lovely shapes like that. Right, so now with my little sword brush I can play around a little bit with the paint and my greens. And make it more interesting at the bottom here and over here. So, not going to be precise with the leaves at all, I'm just going to indicate them with quite a watery wash. This is why this brush is good for this kind of thing. It will give me lots of lovely little shapes without my having to work too hard. Tiny little bud here, so put that in. Try to vary your greens so you've got darks and lights, whatever it is you decide to paint. So the leaves are very feathery looking. Let me show you. Oops. So they're all very sort of all over the place and very sort of feathery and loose and free, so all you have to do is give the impression of them. Sitting and painting every single one precisely would probably not look so good and take absolutely ages. But, you know, if that's what you like and that's what you want to do, I don't have an issue with it. Dropping some water back on as well will actually create nice shapes at the base here. And don't forget your darks, because the darks will always throw the lights back and give lovely perspective and interest. So as long as you end up with a nice shape, see what I mean about this brush really doing the trick here. And it's great fun, so have some fun this week. so I don't think I need to show you any more on there particularly. I've got some poppies. I think one thing I would have done was just allow it to dry a little bit more before popping the centre in. I might be able to do something about bringing that back. I think I went in there when it's a bit too wet, but better that than too dry and getting too detailed though in this particular instance. But I'll probably bring that together a bit when it's more, you know, when I've got a bit more time and when it's completely dry. So that's the technique this week, and actually when I take this tape off I'll have a lovely edge to the work as well. So something like this week please, with popping a background down first. You see, if you've got lots of different poppies appearing in the garden, you could do a selection of poppies as I have on that one. And as you see, all the little marks that I've made at the base there with my sword brush. This is another one that I did this week using a different subject, painting a different subject. Not sure if it's finished, but that's as far as it's got so far. And that was just painting my lovely rose that's in the garden. And I not only sprayed the background and popped the background in, I actually sprayed some of the flowers as well, which I will be doing perhaps another week with you, because that creates nice effects, but takes a little bit of practice as well. Another rose I did, and put lots and lots of work into the background. So sometimes you can just keep on going, you know, with allowing each particular layer of background marks to dry before putting another lot on the top and creating a very dark and busy background, which I know is going to suit some of you, because some of you really do like to have a really good old fiddle with that background brush. So that's what you'll get if you're, you know, if you allow each area to dry first. Okay, so that's it for this week. Next week, I really don't know what I will be painting, because it just really depends on what the garden throws up and what, you know, I'm inspired to paint. But I will be using techniques again, and maybe backgrounds and so on. So it'll be a surprise for all of us. It's drying up nicely, and I'll see what I can do to just finish it off, and then you'll see it when I attach it. Have a good week, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.